And a Happy New Year, everybody. Chris McDonald back with you for the first official show of 2025. And, you know, it would not be the start of the year. Almond Bar here was my guest last year, January the 1st of 2024. He was the first guest we had in 2023, so we didn't want to break tradition here. It just screwed the whole year up, and they're telling what would happen this year if we didn't have him back on tonight. So, good to have my dear buddy. He's my neighbor, and I'm getting my hat right. Good to see you, my friend. How are you? Good to see you. Hope you had a good holiday, New Year, and all that good stuff. It's good to see you. Always a pleasure to talk to you and have you on the show.
Yeah, it's great to be on. I hope you're not going to blame that last year on me.
No.
That was a rough one. Yeah, it's good to be on. Good to be on with you.
That was a rough one. I didn't blame it on you. It was rough all across the country. I do want to talk about that a little bit. We had a little discussion New Year's Eve night with the crowd, and it was good to see you in the house, by the way. It's glad you dropped in. And, you know, a lot of people felt like that the assassination attempt of President Trump, the election, the drones, the eclipse, you know, the hurricanes, definitely. The hurricanes affected us up here just to our east in North Carolina. Horrible tragedy there that hit. But Chris, I think there's a lot of other things that last year, I'll tell you what, we could point to. You mentioned it in the chat, P. Diddy. I think that's going to be fruit on a tree that's going to have a lot of folks concerned as they get into this next year, because you're not going to have Merrick Demi Garland running the DOJ. You're going to have Pam Bondi, and I think she's going to try to figure out what's going on. And I just think it's going to be a different world come January the 20th, but we got to get Trump. We got to get him inaugurated. That's the key right now. Yeah,
boy, it's been the longest couple of months in my life since he's been elected. You know, I was waiting for that to happen. It seems like the administration that's in place right now. I don't really like to say Joe Biden or whatever, because I don't think that anything that's occurred has been Joe Biden anyway. You know, everything that's taken place has been the machine kind of mandating what happens, and he's the face,
right,
or the puppet of what they're doing. But it just seems like between the time he was elected, you know, Donald Trump, President Trump was elected, and when he'll be inaugurated, it seems like they're just trying to wreak as much havoc as they can with all of these pardons and the billions still going to where they shouldn't go, you know, just spending our money and money that we don't have, you know. So it's just...
You know, you mentioned the machine, and I'm just curious. It's an opinion question, because I don't know if me and you either one know this. But who do you think's in the machine running this country right now? Because, Chris, it's evident he's nowhere to be found. Even in this terrorist attack New Year's Eve, that statement he made was on teleprompter. He waited 16 hours to say anything. And that's not a president that's in touch with reality, man. It has to concern everybody out here. We got 18 more days of this crap. And anything could happen. You saw how suddenly that thing happened Tuesday night. And then you had the Las Vegas bombing. 10 people got wounded last night in Queens. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah. And it's just like this administration's AWOL, but it does make you ask the question, who's running the country right now, if anybody?
Yeah, well, you know, whenever I say the machine, and I don't mean this in just a vague term. I mean, I just really do believe that it's satanic. I think.
Oh, absolutely.
I think there are some very satanic people in place, in very high places, very powerful positions, and I think there's a lot of fear that drives the decisions that take place. You know, I think there are a lot of people even who are the face of the, you know, when we look at like Pelosi and people like that, you know, and I don't, you know, I could call names, and I don't mean Pelosi. I'm not talking about her.
Right.
But I'm just using that as an example. You know, I think a lot of the people that we would look at and just say, well, that person, or I don't trust that person, or this person, you got to wonder how many people are just doing what they're doing out of fear, because people, they're being blackmailed.
So great.
You got people who are being, you know, and it's just, there's just so much evil and wickedness that goes on in our government. And, you know, and I believe that that's why when Trump was elected the first time, and now that he's been reelected, that it shook things up so much, because he's not a part of that club.
That's right.
You know, but he knows about the club. You know, and you know, it was amazing. I think I said this before, and I don't mean to just repeat myself, but it's amazing how. Oh, and this is just an example, but like on Saturday, you know, Hollywood loved Donald Trump, and on Sunday they hated him.
That's very true.
You know, and everybody wanted their picture taken with him on Saturday, but then they wanted him
in jail.
If he gets elected, we're leaving the country. And all these empty promises they made, you know, because they stayed here. I wish they wouldn't have, but
yeah. No, it's well said.
I just believe it's a lot of wickedness.
I do too, and it's okay. You can repeat yourself. I do it every day. I've been doing it for 7 years now, and so people are used to people repeating themselves here on the show, so it's all right. No, it's a well said point, and I do want to ask you about the P. Diddy thing because I do believe that they're going to look. They can't hide forever. Do you think the P. Diddy thing is going to be as important as Epstein? Do you think both of these lists come out? Do you think we're going to get to the truth of either situation under Pam Bondi? Or do you think all this is just going to go away in this puff of smoke and it's just like Twitter fodder and people are going to forget about it?
Yeah, I mean, I always say that I hope so, you know, and they, you know, Donald Trump has been saying, you know, that he's going to expose the deep state and that he's going to get rid of the deep state and this type of thing, you know, and I was just talking to my wife inside a moment ago when I heard him say that on somebody else's program, and you know, I said, you know, I hope that he is really going to do that. You know, I don't doubt that he has every intention, and I don't doubt that he'll try extremely hard, you know, to see that takes place. But you know, when he said before we're going to drain the swamp,
he did.
You know, he did not. I don't believe. You know. I know it's been said he just didn't get it done, but I don't believe he knew how deep the swamp was.
That's a good point.
You know, and I think that he took his best shot, you know, but 4 years of, you know, the other side of the aisle in his face, in his business.
Impeachment.
You know, running block, trying to impeach him. I mean, it was nonstop assault on Donald J. Trump. His whole 4 years, you know, and that he got the things done that he did get done.
It was a miracle.
It's pretty amazing.
It is.
I think.
Oh, I'm with you.
And I believe, I'll say this and then I'll be quiet.
No, you're fine. Keep talking. You're fine.
I believe him coming in this time, I believe that he's had 4 years. You know, we've also said this. I think that he's been elected now is a whole lot better for our country than if he would have been reelected then.
Bingo.
And I think he's had 4 years to plan. 4 years to, you know, to look at everything, to do his research, for his people to do their research. And I believe whenever he hits Washington, D.C. this time, he's going to be a whole lot more prepared to do what he said he was going to do. So I hope and pray to see a lot of real action take place.
I'm with you, and I think that was, I think that's our hope tonight because, Chris, my personal opinion is this. Look, none of us want revenge. This is not about revenge. I keep hearing people out there on both sides of the aisle saying, well, if he goes after this person or goes after that person, he's just seeking revenge. Look, what the left did to this country over the last 8 years, and I'll go back to Trump's first term, what they put this country through with this false Russia investigation, these impeachment shams, digging into his finances, this lawfare that he went through this summer and this year, trying to stop him from even getting on that ballot, to put him in jail, basically, which he would have never seen the light of day had he got into that prison. And thank God for that bullet missing him on July the 13th, brother. And there was 2 other attempts that we, had not been really talked about. The guy at the golf course in Florida, but there was another attempt somewhere up in New York. Somebody put a plastic fake bomb, and that could have, been real. Who knows? And I tell you, I believe for the country to heal and heal properly, you've got to bring justice. And I look at this, and I know there's disagreement out here because I've had people tell me that they disagree with this, and they say, well, you've got to take the higher plane. But taking the higher plane means if you take the higher plane, you let them get away with it. And I put money, what little I got, on the table tonight to tell you they'll do it again. If you don't nip it in the bud, if you don't stop the actors now, they're salivating because eventually, Chris, they will get back in power. I mean, eventually this group, that we just booted out of office and a thud, they're going to get back in power eventually. And it may not be Trump next time, because he'll be a long forgotten memory. But anybody that's a threat to their establishment, my friend, they'll do it again. And to me, it's absolutely hideous what they've done to his family, what they did to his children, what they did to his associates, what they've done to his business partners, all because they knew him. Nothing that they really did illegally. This lawfare, what they did with the shredding of the Constitution, the shredding of law, from Alvin Bragg and Jack Smith and Fannie Willis and this corrupt judge and this corrupt DA in Washington, D.C., all this crap has got to be addressed. Now, I'm not saying that it's not a noble thing to try to look ahead, but I don't think you can look ahead until you look at what's happened. And I go back to the J6 stuff, and I'll do the stop talking thing, but I'll just say this. It is a pitiful shame what these J6ers have been through for 4 years in jail. Many of them have lost everything. They've lost their family. They've lost their money. And somebody needs to pay for what happened in 2020.
Yeah. You know, and I bet that the J6 thing, that going back to the whole fear, thing, I just believe that, Satan rules out of fear. The people who are wicked, they rule out of fear. I think that they what they sought to do was make examples out of grandmas and grandpas and people who, were just happened to be there.
Right.
And didn't do anything. But just, we're going to put you in, and are still in jail. Because of it. And I think they just did that to make an example, to say, no, if you rise up against us, here's what we'll do to you, to try to keep people, under their thumb. But, a while ago you mentioned taking the high road. I always figured if taking the high road, doing the right thing. And, the bottom line is the other side, the other side don't like, what the right thing is.
That's a great point.
Because, you listen, think about Hillary Clinton. It's not a matter of we hate her, so put her in jail. That has nothing to do with it. It's she broke the law, put her in jail. She used private emails for, and she endangered our country.
She did.
That's what she did, but they did nothing to her. And it's really sad and angering to the private citizen that if we don't pay our taxes, we'll get put in jail.
$100.
You know what I mean? Or they'll take our house from us. They'll make examples out of us, but people in those positions can do whatever they want to do, and they never have to answer for it. And that's what really bothers me. And so, if he were to get, he is in power, and if when he does take office, he were to begin, investigating and going back and looking at people and putting some people in prison, they can call it revenge all they want, but I call it justice.
Justice, I do too, buddy. Amen.
If you deserve to be in prison, you deserve to be in prison. If you've broken the law.
Yep. Couldn't have said it better. No, I couldn't have said that better. I don't want to ask you a question along those lines, because the resources of the Department of Justice have been basically spent over the last 4 years trying to get Trump, trying to get moms in front of abortion clinics that are 86 and in wheelchairs, parents in front of school boards that are just concerned that little Johnny and Susie is reading Debbie Does Dallas in the kindergarten reading program. Some of those folks will know what I didn't watch that movie. I just want to make that clear. I'll say that, and somebody say, how does Chris know about Debbie Does Dallas? So I got to clarify, I did not see that. But I think most people, it's the biggest porn movie of the 70s. But I didn't see it because I was a kid, so my dad would have killed me if I was probably not even a teenager when that came out. But my point is, parents were standing up to pornography being in their kids' reading material, Chris, and these teachers basically talking to 5th, 4th, 3rd graders about stuff that nobody should be talking to them about except mom and daddy. And it was perverse stuff, telling them that it's okay for a man to have sex with a man and all above the board. Look, if the Department of Justice would have been doing its job over the last 4 years, maybe we wouldn't have had somebody drive a truck into the New Orleans Bourbon Street area New Year's Eve night, because maybe somebody would have been alert that something was brewing with this guy that served in the military, that had been radicalized. He drove from Houston, Texas to New Orleans. The FBI is out there today saying, oh, we confirmed there's nobody else involved in this. Horse hockey. Yeah. The guy in Las Vegas drove from Colorado to do what he did in Las Vegas.
Yeah,
and they're going to
connection.
It's connection, man. It's a connection. That alone is a connection.
You know what's funny is we were watching something a moment ago, and the police, the police chief in Las Vegas was making his speech, and he talked about, them being in Fort Bragg, but we don't know that if we're researching into it, we're looking into it to see if they served together or if they were ever, at Fort Bragg at the same time.
Exactly.
Or if they ever served, overseas at the same time. And, Kim and I are looking at each other saying, researching? I mean, isn't that something you could just, you could go to the government and say, hey, did these guys serve? Look them up. Absolutely. And boom. It's like, come on, man, stop playing the game. That's such a game. I mean, they can, I can walk down Las Vegas Strip and they'll find me. I mean, my phone is listening to me all the time. Kimberly's looking up wallpaper on her phone, and it starts popping up wallpaper ads on my Facebook.
That's exactly right.
It's like, and you don't know if they served at Fort Bragg at the same time. How hard is it going to be to figure that out? Just ask the question, man.
Do you think they're doing this deliberately to instill martial law? I know that's come up in some discussions. It came up in the discussion New Year's Eve night. I don't want to go that far to say it's deliberate, but Chris, I wouldn't put nothing past this government right now. And this FBI, I wouldn't care if they told me the sky's blue. I wouldn't believe a word that is coming out of any of their mouths. I just wouldn't believe a word that they say. They know this guy had a connection with somebody.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm not saying that it is, but I'm not saying, I mean, you'd be crazy to think that it can't be. You know what I mean? Nobody knows what it is, but I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, these days, nothing surprises me at all.
Are you concerned that there's going to be more of this before January 20th?
Sure. To go back, the guy in the Tesla.
Right.
And that he shot himself.
Right.
So it looks like terrorism. Now I don't know if it's really terrorism or if somebody tried to make it look like terrorism. I don't know. But I don't. It's hard to figure out. Never will be able to figure out, I guess.
Good stuff. I'm gonna change gears on you a little bit. Jimmy Carter died 29th. You're from South. I was from Georgia. You're from here. North Carolina, actually. You're Tar Heel. Go Tar Heels. Go Tar Heels.
Right. Go Heels.
Go Heels, man. What was your thoughts on Carter? Post-presidency and president? Me and you about the same age. What was your memories of Jimmy Carter?
My memory, I was a small child. I really was. And,
right.
What I remember the most, two things. This is funny. Number one, I remember my dad was a preacher, and he didn't drink that I saw.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that he did not drink. I'm not going to say he never took a drink, but he didn't drink, but he had a 6-pack of Billy beer on the top of his fridge.
Oh,
Billy Carter, the
brother
of the president.
Yeah,
I remember that. But really, what I remember of his presidency was whenever he was at the end of his term, and the Iranian hostages were being, Reagan was coming in, and basically, I don't know. I guess Trump is being Reagan-esque now, but to look back then, you would say Reagan was being Trump-esque.
Right.
Then basically saying, "Hey, I'm coming in, and you've got two options. You go ahead and let them go now, or when I get in, you're going to be sorry that you didn't." And I think that it was pretty awesome of Ronald Reagan at the time. I remember this. Jimmy Carter was still the president whenever they did release the hostages, and instead of Ronald Reagan going to the airport tarmac and greeting them, he graciously said for Jimmy Carter to be there and do that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Even though Jimmy Carter had nothing to do
with what happened
with it, he allowed him to be the face of the one who greeted them back home.
Yeah,
that was class.
I remember that day quite well. I was sitting in a U.S. history class, and we were watching the inauguration on one channel and the hostages on another being put on the plane. And you're right. And I tell you what, it's the parallel of that is Hamas. Because Trump, again tonight, told Hamas pretty much, I'm not going to ask you a third time. You know, it's like our dogs and our kids. We give them a warning first. The second time is a sternly worded warning. But by the third time, the grace is gone. And Trump told him tonight, basically, he said, I'm not going to tell you again. I want my hostages back. And I read a report tonight in Breitbart that the Hamas leadership, they think he's bluffing. There are reports coming out of Jerusalem and out of the Gaza Strip tonight that the Hamas leadership has said, we don't think Trump's going to do anything. I wouldn't put money on that. I wouldn't be putting my cards on the table with that, because I think Trump's going to put a hole in that place like the size of Texas.
Yeah, to me, that would be something that, I think that would excite Trump pretty. I mean, so you're going to call my bluff on that? I'll show you. I mean, you're fired.
Yeah, you're going to be fired, all right. I got a weird question for you, and I want to go on to something that reported about abortion. If you were in charge of Republican leadership in the House, I know he's only got 19 days. I know that if you say the alphabet, he's not sure if you're talking about the soup or the actual letters we read by. And I'm not making light of that. It's a dangerous thing to think that we've had a nursing home patient in charge of this country with the mental capacity of Joe Biden. And I'm not making fun of this. This is serious stuff.
No, it's just the facts.
But the things that he did, Chris, the malfeasance that he did to destroy this country, the open border. Look, these murders, we have become the most violent country. These shootings, this violence, these rapes, this murdering of innocent civilians, kids, children, pedophilia, all of this, I lay at his doorstep. If you were in the Republican leadership, even at this late hour, because they did it to Trump, would you impeach him?
Absolutely. And I mean, you're asking me would I now? I mean, I would have started the process a long time ago.
Absolutely, I would have too.
But, whenever he when he weaponized, the court system against Trump, to me that was grounds for them to go after him and impeach him. And to say that, well, he wasn't behind that. Yes, he was.
Yes, he was. Oh, yeah, absolutely he was.
I mean, and I say he. The people behind him were.
Do you think he was as mentally off as he made out to be, or do you think that some of this... Because I've talked to people who have treated dementia patients before, who have treated Alzheimer's patients, and they tell me that sometimes they go in and out. In other words, they can be lucid one day, and the next day they're not here. It's like a roller coaster. And you see, I'm just an old Southern boy just like you are. I'm just a common sense kind of guy. And it seems to me when he was attacking Trump, calling us garbage, trashing conservatives, trashing Christians, promoting homosexuality, promoting transgenderism, promoting open borders, and basically just trashing the country, he was as lucid as can be.
Yeah.
But when he was making decisions, all of a sudden Joe was talking to voices and walking in 6 directions when he was on the world stage. Do you think it was an act, or do you think it was part of this whole Alzheimer's crap?
It's almost like there was more than one of him.
Absolutely there was. It was bipolar.
I mean, I really do believe that there were. I mean, I don't claim to be a conspiracy theorist, but I mean, you see him one day up there, and he's got that nobody is home look.
No, I know.
Right? And
absolutely.
He's just staring, and it's like there's not a thought in his head. And then the next time you see him, he's talking, and you're like, is that the same guy? What kind of medicine are they giving him, or is it somebody else? And there have been a lot of people who've said, there's more than one. And you've seen Hollywood and what they can do. I've seen the reels and how they put on a mask, and I mean, they can slap it on, man, like that. They look like somebody else.
Look, I wouldn't put nothing, as I said, I wouldn't put nothing past this bunch. But I will say this. I will say this, and I'll move on to something else. The lousy Democrats, as Trump was going out of office in 2020, Chris, they impeached him over a crap, sham impeachment twice. Nancy Pelosi was able to rally the Dems to do it twice.
Well, let me ask you a question. Can you re-elect an impeached president?
Absolutely, you can, as long as you're not convicted. Impeachment is just.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I mean, that was honestly a question I didn't know.
If he was, you can't. If he would have been convicted, because the Senate had to be. The House brings the impeachment, which are the charges. The Senate votes on his guilty or not guilty, and the Senate acquitted him both times. But the thing is, and I made this.
I'm not talking about one that's been acquitted. I'm talking about one that has truly been impeached. You know, and gone through the entire process and was kicked out. If
he's found guilty, he can't. He couldn't run again. No.
Right, and I believe that is what they were looking for. They didn't want another 4 of him. You know, and I think that's why they went. You know, but I mean, because like you say, okay, your term is about up. Why impeach now?
Well, he failed. They failed. They failed their effort.
Failed. But I would say that's why they were doing it, is just so they could take the shot at him being convicted, impeached, and not up for re-election.
Yeah. But this is the thing that burns me to the core about that. The Republicans got a real reason to impeach Joe Biden. They don't have just a sham political agenda.
Yeah.
They got real reasons to impeach Joe Biden tonight. Yeah. And you can't even get the Republicans to agree on whether a cow produces milk. Yeah. And it just drives me crazy. And I'll tell you what's important, and I'm going to say this real quick. Me and you, depending on how many years the Lord tarries, we're now in our 50 and 60 years, and we're going to be on the downside here. And if the Lord tarries 30 or 40 years, we're not going to be around. And our kids and our grandkids are going to read about this time of history. And every time they pick up a history book, Chris, they're going to say, Donald Trump, twice convicted felon, twice impeached, and unless there's somebody there that remembered this time, the next generation is going to think that Donald Trump was the biggest crook in America. And then you're going to pick up the book and say, Joe Biden, the grandfatherly person that took over for Donald Trump in 2020, and he calmed the country, and he did this, and he was diverse, and he, gave rights to illegals and all this stuff. And with this generation that's behind us, their view of this time of history, it scares me to believe what they're going to think about us. Yeah. And I just think we owe it to them. We owe it to them to fix this stuff tonight. Because none of us are going to be here forever. And I'm scared for my grandkids. All right, now. Saw a report today. I want to get your opinion about it. We got about another 10, 15 minutes. It's good to have you tonight, man. Folks, if you're with us, we got Chris Allman, the one and only Chris Allman, best tenor in the world. Best fight. Best record producer in the world. He gets a door prize in heaven for having put up with the Mac Man for the last 4 years. I can tell you that. But I read a report yesterday, very disturbing. Abortion killed more people last year than any other thing. That includes murder, DUI, heart attack, cancer. You can list every disease that you want to in America. 45 million babies perished last year. That's the highest number of deaths that we had from a group in our country last year, Chris, from baby killing. Look, I'm gonna ask you a spiritual question. We're preachers' kids. We understand that this country is built on faith, but we've not been acting like it for a long time. How much longer does God keep giving us mercy over this stuff without responding in a very powerful way and not in a good way? Because I just feel like the more we keep doing this stuff, the blood of those babies are screaming from the ground. Because there's nobody to scream for them in the womb. Just the mother.
Yeah.
And if the mother allows the doctor to do it, Chris, there ain't nobody screaming for him. But that soul is in God's hands, and that blood. Look, if the blood of Abel, one man, that Cain killed, cried to God from the ground, what's 45 million voices doing right now, man? It's a sick reality that we killed more babies last year, and it caused more death than anything else in this country. That's a scary thought.
Yeah, it really is. A couple of things I'll say would be, whenever, and you said it a while ago, and I mean I know what you're saying when you say it, because when you say we haven't been what we haven't done, you have, and I have, and you're basically, I think, generalizing those who are in power and that can make the calls.
In general, I am. I'm talking to the politicians, the doctors, the medical community, and people that are allowing these women to kill babies without consequence. Go ahead.
Yeah. So whenever I think of, when you're like, how much longer can God allow this type of thing and still keep his hand? I always go back to the Word and think about Lot, whenever he wanted God to spare.
Sodom,
Abraham, and he was like, how many righteous? Well, if you can find 10 righteous, and then he couldn't, and he said, okay, I can't find 10, but you know what? Okay, well, if you can, it got all the way down to if you can find one righteous.
That's right.
One.
And you couldn't.
Well, yeah, he couldn't, but there are a lot in America.
Yeah, I'll agree with what you're saying. I do.
And I think that's our hope. I think the ones who have the faith, the ones who are fighting for those babies, the ones who are trying to have, to give them a voice by saying something for them and in their defense, like you are tonight, and like I am, and like President Trump has. He's in a really hard situation right now because, hey, he appointed a judge, which I think that was the pinnacle of his first term.
The judges
that he put in place.
I totally agree. Totally agree.
I believe that a lot of good was done there. Roe versus Wade was overturned, which sent it back to the states, which gives, the more conservative states are making a harder stand on that now. And, you have liberal states who are just trying to show off and see what they can do, how bad they can go. But, there's always going to be wicked among us, there'll always be that. But I just believe that God sees the heart of those who are righteous that are in this country. I think about America, and whenever you look at the globe and you compare America to all of the other continents and countries and so forth, we still send more missionaries out to spread the gospel than any country. We are still the light, I believe. If there is a light in this world, I believe America is it.
I'll agree with you in principle. I will agree with you that we do have a righteous remnant in this nation, Chris. But I think what also concerns me, and this is just, again, from my view, I think the church at large, it really goes back in some ways to the church in Nazi Germany, when Hitler basically dehumanized the Jews. And instead of the church standing up to the dehumanizing of a race of people, they sat around for the most part, and not just sat in silence. They supported what Hitler was doing. And it was a few voices, Martin Niemöller, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and maybe a few other pastors that stood up and said, this is evil. Hitler's evil. We don't follow man when he tells us to do evil things and kill Jews. And I read so many stories of how the church acted during that time, and I bring it into this time of history. And this is not a church bash thing tonight, but I will tell you, there's a deafening silence about these babies being killed coming from our pulpits. And I think that when you get down to nations, if you look at, I've been reading the prophets this year, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, Hosea, all the timeline where Israel went into bondage to Babylonia and the northern kingdom went into Assyrian captivity. And one of the things over and over and over that God denounced was the corruption in the spiritual leadership of the nation. He held the nation responsible for the malfeasance of their priests, their prophets, and their civil servants, but he especially laid it at the feet and the doorstep of those spiritual leaders. Jesus himself, when he wept over Jerusalem, he said, Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets, I've sent you prophet after prophet. You've killed every one of them, the true ones. How often I would have gathered you to my side, but you would not. My only point, and I'm not disagreeing with you, and I see where you're coming from, I do believe for what you're saying to take place in this country, though, it's got to start at that pulpit. And I don't see a lot of that. There's some of it. I'm not saying that every single preacher in America is not saying something about it, because I see a few out there that are. But for the most part, the church at large, the system, the institutionalized terra firma church that we see with our eyes, very little is being said about it. Very little is being said about it.
Yeah, these days, organized church looks like the world to me.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
pretty much.
They're not. You know, sadly, it used to be, if I be lifted up, I'll draw men unto myself. And that really, that's what you needed to do. And you know what? And the thing is that's what you need to do today. Pastors today, and I say it in general, I don't mean it because they're not all this way. We go to a lot of churches, a lot of small churches, and a lot of very loving pastors,
right.
And humble men of God. You know, so I'm not bunching into this, but there's a dangerous amount of pastors who want to draw a crowd, and for the wrong reasons. You know what I'm saying? That they want their church to grow. You know, and I can say this. I was a pastor at one time, and I remember one time I wanted to get local churches together, pastors to come together, and we were going to host a dinner type thing, and I was going to have like Johnny Hunt come in and talk to them, and I wanted them all to come together. And I'm telling you, I couldn't get any pastors in the same city that I was in to even return the RSVP.
I know. I don't doubt that.
You know, and it's because it's not, you know, sadly, it's just, to too many pastors, it's not about that. It's not about unifying. It's not about coming together and reaching people for the Lord. It's all about, no, this is my church, and I want my church to be bigger than your church. You know, I want, and this kind of thing. It's just, I think that the vision, the focus, they're out of focus. They got their eyes on the wrong stuff. You know, you listen to the music these days, it sounds like a rock show. They got the haze going on, and they got the light beams doing this, and you know, everybody has their superstars that get up there on Sunday morning and they sing, and they're the stars, man. And I mean, too much focus on this.
That's a great point. Well,
and no focus on that.
I tell you, but I read a great article today, and it was a Christian publication, and it said 3 things pastors do not need to do in 2025. And I just happened to scroll through it. I just want to see the high points. I didn't get a chance to read the meat and potatoes. But the third point, I read the meat and the potatoes, and it basically said stop preaching sermons to the congregation you don't have, and preach sermons to your congregation. And what they were saying is this. Social media has made, you talking about the superstar stuff. A lot of preachers, Chris, are preaching to that camera to get on TikTok and to get on Facebook and to get on YouTube and be a sensation. And the more sensational they can say it, the more stuff they can say. It may not even be biblical, man, but just to get an audience. And this article was like that we need to return, and I'm with you 1,000,000%. I'm glad you said something about the small pastors, because my dad, I'm a preacher's kid too, and my dad's churches were never big. I think the biggest church he ever pastored was in Atlanta, Georgia, where when it peaked out, it had about 150, 200 people. But my dad was a pastor to local, small congregations. The love in those churches was so great. There was a friendship, there was a unity, there was family. And my dad was a shepherd. Look, he was tough, and he felt like a wolf was coming in there. Daddy wouldn't put up with it. He would stand up, and it made some people mad at times, but I tell you what, he protected the sheep. I always respected him for that. And I think that there are some godly pastors, and a lot of them are probably never going to be heard from on this earth. They don't have TikTok. You're not going to hear about them. I tell you when you're going to hear about them is in eternity. When we stand before God, God is going to bring people to the front and say, well done, my good and faithful servant. That beautiful song Rodney Griffin says, well done. I think they're going to hear that because they protected the sheep. They stayed true to the Word of God, and they didn't pander to this world. And I think those three things are lacking right now. And that is going to determine our future in this country spiritually. Look, the political stuff, I believe, for the next 4 years should stabilize a little bit with Trump. But I think it's a flip of the coin to see if the nation's spiritual health follows the nation's political health. And I think the spiritual health is far more important. You got about 5 minutes. I'm going to let you wrap us up with a final thought. What's your thoughts on that?
I agree with you. I think that if we get ourselves spiritually in order, that everything else will follow suit. And I think Paul, and here's just to the listeners right now, those who are listening, because a while ago you talked about preachers preaching to people who aren't there. So let's preach to the people who are watching. I think that our first step to being right with God is to quote Paul when he said, I am the chief of all sinners.
That's right, buddy.
And I believe that if we can all look in the mirror,
come on,
and really focus on who we are without the Holy Spirit driving us and driving our decisions, driving our motives, and clearing off the path for us that we're going to walk on, I think we're all in a lot of trouble. I think there's a lack of humility today in the church, in the world, just among believers, period. I think there's too much going on that hogs our attention and takes it off of Him. We've got a new year, and I forget what it is my wife says. Okay, Kimberly, if you're watching, I hope you are, text me. I've got a text thread back here, and I can see it come up if you text me. But she always says, don't say resolution. Don't say New Year's resolution. She says to say something else. But the bottom line is anytime we ever how many times have you ever made a resolution didn't make it past January 20th?
I got something to say about that. I heard something today. It's funny you said that. January the 10th, which is a week from Friday, the second Friday of every year, is called Quitter's Day in America. You know why?
Yeah.
That's when people quit the resolution, so they don't even make it to the 20th. But keep going.
Kimberly texted me and she said we need to not make New Year's resolutions, but we need to make New Year's intentions.
Great.
And we need to be intentional about the things that we're going to do. And she just thumbs up to me. She said good deal. So gym membership goes through the roof in January.
That is very true, brother.
But you can go in February and you can still find one of many treadmills to walk on.
That is very true, brother. That's very true.
Bottom line is, but it is a new year, and it always is good to refocus, at least in the new year, and say, over the next 12 months, what can I do that will draw me closer to God? Because Amen. God's close to us. Amen. What can we do to draw close to Him? He's always ready to be our best friend. He is our best friend, but what can we do to be His best friend? We leave Him hanging a lot. And I think that if we would all just look in the mirror and say, hey, I am chief of all sinners, man. I am no good. The Bible itself says, a lot of people will be out there and they'll say, no, I'm good. I think I'm good, and this, that, and the other. What I'm talking about is the Bible says is our heart is deceitful and it's wicked, and no man can know it.
That's so true, Chris. That's so true, buddy.
If we are not focused on Him, if we are not taking time with Him, if we are not trying to put self aside, every sin we ever commit, the root of it is selfishness.
So true. I could say it better.
There's not a sin that you can even think of that you'd ever commit that the root of it is not selfishness. Me, I. So, man, if we can take me and I out of the equation and point to Him, I think that, if the congregation will get stronger, it might drive the pastors to get to a better place.
I totally agree. Look, we hear a lot about bad pastors. I hear it all the time, but I think there's some bad sheep, and I think some bad sheep need to get right with God just as much as the pastors need to get right with God tonight.
How many pastors quit on Monday?
Ton.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough gig. So
well, we're preachers' kids, and look, we've talked about this many a time, man, privately, and we watched both our fathers. I watched my father suffer at times internally. And I remember there were nights I would hear him when I was growing up as a child. Some of the things that these churches did to my dad, it would hurt him to the point. I'd never heard my dad cry, probably until I was in my teens. And I remember something the church did to him. It was really ugly. I mean, it was truly ugly. And Daddy wasn't perfect, but, there ain't no more crueler bunch than church folks. And I remember in another room, and I heard something in the night, and I got up, and I said, is that Dad? And he was wailing, just wailing, in the middle of the night. And Mom told me later, she said, that hurt him so bad. She said, I've never seen him so distraught and hurt over something. And Chris, that's the role of a shepherd. A shepherd's going to hurt more than the fluty, fly-by-night, hot, 20,000 carat diamond slick evangelist that comes into these churches and gets the money and leaves. These pastors stay with these sheep. It's a tough business, man. And I have a lot of sympathy and empathy, and I'm not trying to chastise pastors tonight. What I'm trying to do is encourage them. We need you to be the voice of America. If we've ever needed you to be the voice of America and our reasoning and our conscience, please come back to this fight. I like your hat. Come back to what Almond's hat says. Come back to the fight. Let me say hello to Kimberly. It's good to see her tonight. Glad that she's out there. But I'm going to let you wrap this up. Listen, tell us your greater vision. I know a lot of people know that. Some people may not. Chris is the tenor singer of Greater Vision. He's Gerald Wolfe, John Epley, Rodney Griffin, the best group in America. And Chris also does my music for me. And we've been doing that music since 2021. 20, actually, going on 5 years together. Now, have you needed therapy after any of our sessions? I just want to ask you if you have. I don't think I've ever asked you that. I just, No,
I haven't.
Okay.
Man, Chris comes in here and knocks him out.
I have. Deal. Well, he tells me that he has these groups in there. It takes him 6 hours to do one song. McDonald comes in there. He calls me one take McDonald. We don't mess around. We're done in 2 hours for 10 songs. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, and we've had lunch too.
And we've had lunch. That's exactly right. Well, I do want to say we got a brand new hymn project Chris is working on as far. It'll be out soon. And tell us real quick about y'all's year coming up. I know you're going to the West Coast for a little while. But how busy a year Greater Vision got ahead of you, man?
Well, we're always real busy, my goodness, we do 185 dates a year, so we're gone quite a bit. We're starting out in Arizona this year. We fly out to Arizona to Phoenix, and then we fly back. That's not this weekend, but the next. But hey, you can go, there's a cool app on your phone that you can download. It's called Bands in Town.
Bands in Town.
BANDSINTOWN. Bands in Town. If you'll download that app, and if you will type in the search bar Greater Vision, and you will like that artist, then you will begin to get notifications. You can set the parameter of how far you'd be willing to drive to see Greater Vision. And if it's 100 miles, if we're within 100 miles of you, it will notify you and let you know that we're coming your direction. So that's the best way to keep up with Greater Vision. I've done a lot of solo stuff in 2024. My goodness, I released 6 projects, 3 hymn projects, 2 praise projects, and a Christmas project. You can find all of my music on chrisallmanmusic.com/store. All of the CDs that I have are there. You can also download tonight all of my music right from the site. You can follow my YouTube channel at it's called Hymns and Praises, HYMNS, Hymns and Praises. So go subscribe to that, and I've got videos on there that are like 6 hours long, so you can just turn them on and listen to hymns. But anyway, that's the end of my commercial.
No, that's fine, buddy. I'm glad. Look, I'm proud of you, and we've known each other a long time. met y'all in 2019, and we've stayed friends ever since. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for you, and you know I love you as a brother, and appreciate you coming on tonight, buddy. It's always a pleasure to start this year off with you. It's a good interview tonight. It's good stuff, and I want to wish you and Kim a very happy New Year. All the Allman family, your kids, grandkids. We appreciate you, man.
Happy New Year to y'all.
And I'll see you soon, man. We'll talk soon.
All right, buddy.
Bless you, Chris. Chris Allman, everybody. Put some fire in that house for him. And we're grateful for him, and we appreciate him. And we hope that you enjoyed this tonight, as we did. And good stuff there. I appreciate him a lot. All righty. Now, you got 15 minutes, because I am still not 100% tonight. But if you got a question tonight, if you got a question or something you'd like to say regarding the country, anything that's happened this week, we've had a lot happen, sadly, folks. We're still trying to get to the bottom of what happened New Year's Eve night. And we're going to have James Akers on here tomorrow night. I just got back home tonight, and I've not even had a chance to take down the Christmas decorations, and we're going to be doing that this weekend. And McDonald North is what I call it now. But we're grateful for you all, and I'm grateful for Chris Allman. There's no better mixer, there's no better music person in the world that I've ever worked with. I've worked with a few other folks, but it's a given that there's just something about him, and he knows what he's doing. And we're praying the Lord's going to provide us some funds this year to do 2 or 3 projects. What we're doing right now, we're sort of in waiting. We're sort of in a waiting period because he's got so much already on him from us, and we want him to get it done, and he's trying his best, and we know that. And but once he gets to the point that we can start rolling again, we're going to be in that studio a lot with him this year, and we're going to be putting a lot of music together in 2024. We already got a lot of music, and we're going to be spending January getting it out there, and we're going to have our Spotify page updated and our website updated. We're thinking about starting a YouTube channel as well, not to be in competition with anybody, but just something to have that people can listen to 24/7. We're still praying about a weather network. We have got some exciting news. I got to actually start working on the programs this week sometime. The Now Network will launch our first show January the 26th. That's the last Saturday of the month. And 55.5 million people will be listening to us every Saturday night at 9:30 all over this world. And it'll be a Bible study, 28 minutes. And we're going to see how this goes for a year. We got a contract with them for a year. I'm excited. We're excited about K-Star Media. K-Star Radio is going to be taking on the McFiles. It's going to be called the McDonald Report. It'll be a daily news show, Monday through Friday. We're leaning toward afternoons. We were going to do it late at night, but I'm already worn down from this show, and I don't think I can do the night stuff. I'm going to do it in the afternoons, probably around 1 or 2 o'clock. We'll probably be coming right up against Ron Edwards. He comes on at 3 every day, and then we'll be preceding him, and I'm excited about that. But we got a lot going on, and I just feel like it's just a start. I do. I just feel like it's just a start, and got a lot coming. I got word today, our book, Departing from the Faith, will be out February the 5th. That's the official publication date. Everything is done. They've actually got it on Amazon, I think, for pre-order. You'll get it in February. If you go to Amazon.com, put Departing from the Faith in, it may come up already. We're going to get some copies to bring with us out on the conferences this year. We're also planning to be in D.C. the week of January the 20th through the 25th. That is the week of the inauguration on Monday and then the Right to Life March on Friday. And I know a lot of you donate to the show, and y'all give monthly support, and we appreciate it. If you feel led to help us out a little extra this month for that trip, it's going to be a week-long journey. But we're not just going up there to take a vacation. We're going up there to report on the inauguration and also stand for life on that Friday. Carl and Nicole's family will be up there. Andy Griffin is going to be up there. We're hoping to connect up with them. We'll have some interviews that week with some of the Right to Life people. And we're going to stand with those babies. We hadn't done it last year. I'm not sure we went the year before. I don't think I've been there since 2020 because I did not want to visit D.C. while Biden was in office. But the Lord released me this year, and he said go. He said go. And that's what we're going to do. And please think about helping us if you can. And we appreciate it and so forth. Listen, if you got a question or two, you got 10 minutes now. If you got 10 minutes, Deanna Salem says, Justice Kavanaugh, what comes around goes around. Deanna, I hope. I really hope. And I know that people may think it's worthless looking back, but I hope the people that did that to him, I hope they pay a price. A legal price. I do. They tried to ruin that man's life, and they came close to it. And it's very disturbing what the left did to him. It really is. Let's see here. Joan Mertz, people should read Switched On Again, Stay Focused on Our Surroundings. A good idea. Joan, it's a good book. Eric Kieran was with us New Year's. I appreciate him very much. Appreciate Chris being with us tonight. Susie Moore said the church is in dead silence, and Jeannie says the church is AWOL in defense of life, and I tend to agree with that. And I think that most pro-life people that know the inside out of what's going on, folks, the Catholic Church is taking over the pro-life movement because Protestants just won't go march. I can guarantee you on the 25th, it won't be all Catholic, but I can tell, and I'm not, this is not a slur to the Catholics. Look, I respect the Catholics for standing up for life. I may not agree with one thing in their doctrine. I respect the Catholics for standing up for life. We Protestants should be ashamed of ourselves for not doing it. But I guarantee you, the makeup of that crowd Friday the 25th of this month is probably going to be 80-20 Catholic Protestant. And maybe 90-10. Because Protestant pastors do not feel like this is worth their fight. That's what's wrong with our nation. And that's why we had 45 million babies die last year, and it was the biggest killer in America. We'll talk about that more with James tomorrow night, and so forth. Listen, folks, I'm still battling a little bit of this crud, and I'm going to let you go now. I love you so much. I appreciate you on this 2025. I appreciate my dear buddy, Chris Allman. And please continue to pray for your host. He's still trying to get over this hump. This stuff sticks with you. Everybody has told me it sticks with you. And I've got my whole mouth, my body has just been aching, sores. And I tell you, the devil has pulled out all the stops against your host this first week of the year, physically. And he could sure use your prayers tonight. So keep us in your prayers. I will see you. We're going to try to be with you in the morning if I feel up to it. And tomorrow night, James Akers will wrap up the week with us. We got a good show coming up. We're going to talk about some weather stuff too tomorrow night. Some of the weather highlights of last year and some other stuff. No better way to spend your Friday night, your first Friday night of 2025. And speaking of those Catholics, they were unkind tonight to my Georgia Bulldogs. And the Georgia Bulldog season ended at the hands of Notre Dame, 23-10. I guess we'll see y'all next year. So we got Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, and Notre Dame. And James Akers, every time he texts me, he says, "Go Buckeyes!" So I used to live in Ohio. I haven't lived in any of the other states. But go Buckeyes now. And I hope Ohio State takes it to the house. And congratulations. I hate to say congratulations to the Catholics, but I will say this. The young quarterback tonight for Notre Dame gave Jesus credit for his life, which moved me. And Will Howard of Ohio State did the same thing last night in their win against Oregon. And these kids that do this move my heart. That they're not ashamed of their Savior publicly. And I'm proud of them. And I wish both those quarterbacks well. I really do. I really do. And I pray that they'll keep fighting the faith on that football field. And I'm grateful for them tonight. And I'm grateful for you. God bless you. God bless your families. I didn't even get one. It's elementary, my dear Watson, in tonight, did I? So let's do that. Some of you just love this, and let me just go ahead and do it before I leave.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
It's elementary, my dear Watson. I'll play that again. I just love that. I just love that.
Elementary, my dear Watson. Elementary, my dear Watson.
Is he going to do it again? Do it again.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
It's elementary, my dear Watson. I love that coat and that hat. I just lived in a different time. I would have loved to have lived in that time when that was my clothing. I'm a hat guy, so I would have loved that outfit. All righty. Have a good night, everybody. Did you enjoy the show with Chris Allman? I certainly did. He did a great job, and I appreciate him much. And I appreciate you all tonight, folks. Be in prayer for your president tonight, and be in prayer for our nation. And let's pray that we get through this thing to the 20th without any more hurt. Our prayers for the families that lost those loved ones New Year's Eve night in New Orleans, the one that got killed in Las Vegas. We're going to talk to James Akers about this tomorrow night, and then 10 got wounded last night in Queens, New York. And we'll say this, I talked to Dory today, and I'd seen, Kathy sent me a picture of a lightning strike that hit the Empire State Building. And we're going to talk about that a little bit tonight. Hit the Empire State Building on New Year's Eve. And Dory said they had some vicious thunderstorms in the New York area New Year's Eve night. And it's January. Usually those things happen up there in July. And we're going to talk about the weather tomorrow night. A lot. So come back and be with me on Friday night. God's in control of the weather.
Elementary, my dear Watson.
It's elementary, my dear Watson. It's elementary, my dear Watson. May the Lord be with you tonight. Have a great night. I'll see you back here in the morning, hopefully, folks. And you Bible students, please be with me if you can. I'm going to try to be here if I'm up to it physically. Good night, everybody.